Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Moe K, Swedish Whiskey Girl. Today I'm here with this little sample. This is the Sherry Cask Reserve from Filey Bay, or from Spirit of Yorkshire Distillery, but of course their whiskey is called Filey Bay. I have of course done a comparison and reviews for some of their other whiskies if you're curious about those, but today I'm going to try this one and I'm also going to compare it to the second release, because this is their first whiskey that is fully matured in sherry casks. It's from 6, I believe, sherry butts that were filled in 2017, and I believe it's primarily Oloroso sherry that's been used. It's bottled at 46% ABV, and this little sample here was bottled in October 2020, so it's a brand new release. And I do think Spirit of Yorkshire is a very fascinating distillery with a really lovely team, so I'll always be curious to see what they're going to release. And yeah, let's have a little look on the nose. Very fresh nose straight away. Almost like mint meets sherry. But it's undoubtedly sherry notes that are coming out, quite warming, but still with that kind of fresh element, which is quite interesting. Almost a touch of an orange note, but also kind of cherries and a bit of a warming nuttiness, I would say. Quite sweet and a bit of that kind of cinnamon sugar note. But more brown sugar probably. I think it's a little bit cold in here as well, so we're just going to warm it up a little bit. Interesting to see, so if the cask was filled in 2017, then we're guessing this whiskey is just above 3 years old, which I don't feel like it has any youthful notes in that sense. Just that it's quite fresh, so maybe it's that. Oh, so itchy on my nose. I'm very allergic today. But yeah, quite autumny, maybe a little bit of that kind of dry autumn leaves. Yeah, with a little bit of warmth. I mean, our flat is really cold, but with a little bit of a warmer touch to the body, it brings out the aromas even more. Yeah, like a brown sugar orange cake with cinnamon. And like a hazelnuttiness. Interesting. But yeah, let's have a little taste. Sláinte Skål. Oh, and I realised I'd forgotten to say, but it retails at about £70. I think it has a quite, you can kind of tell that it's Oloroso. It has this kind of hazelnuttiness. It does have like a brown sugar-esque feel to it. But it's the sweetness and the kind of dry wood that comes out the most straight away. Because of course Oloroso has a bit of a drier taste to it, even if you try it neat. So it is like an Oloroso character. It's quite autumny, like dry, crisp autumn leaves. I also realised, I don't know if I finished my sentence before, but it's interesting to see a whiskey that's been matured fully in sherry casks like this. Because sometimes if you mature it for too long in sherry, it kind of overpowers it. This still feels very kind of smooth and approachable. I would never guess that it was just above 3 years old. Even though it has like a fresh note and quite a vibrant, alive note to it. I think that kind of brown sugar orange cake, which I also think you get on the palate, along with this kind of drying wood, makes it a really nice autumn whiskey. Like I said, I do have my little Spirit of Yorkshire glass here. We are going to try the second release, which is primarily, I think, only bourbon. This is the problem when you try a lot of whiskies. I kind of forget the little details about them without double checking. But this also sits at 46. So let's have a little sip. This was, I think, my favourite one along with the STR in the comparison I did. It has very much more of a bourbon character. The sherry straight away feels more autumny and a bit like a leather chair library. Like a little bit of that lovely dusty books. If you've seen Beauty and the Beast, like his library, like there's leather armchairs and old books. Which just sounds amazing. I've always been a bit of a bookworm, even since I was younger. And even when I went to the library, the people working in the library knew my name and the town where I'm from. Yeah, so books make me happy, so it's a nice nose. But this second release is very much more of a bourbon kind of vanilla sugars sponge cake. Also quite fresh, but more green apples. Straight away it feels sweeter and a little bit less dry, which you would expect because the other also has a drying flavour in its kind of character. Yeah, sweeter. You can definitely tell if you've ever tried whiskey that's been solely matured in ex-bourbon and also been matured with an influence of sherry. You can definitely set them apart. But they both have this fresh character. And I just wonder where it comes from. I wonder if it's I believe it's a rectifying still. If there's, I'm not really sure what type of spirit this is, because they can of course kind of adjust it. So they can get a lighter spirit, they can also get a little bit of a heavier spirit, depending if they want to go through the rectifying still and get more copper contact. But it almost tastes this kind of fresh note that would make you feel like it's been through the rectifying still, because it's quite light and quite fruity, which I don't experience that you find on a lot of other whiskies that are this age. I think to the benefit of the spirit though, because that kind of fresh note I think is something that a lot of people would like a lot more than the slight vegetal notes you might find in some other younger whiskies. But they very much have this kind of core, the heart, the same heart, which is that freshness. But I would say the Sherry Reserve isn't overly sherried, but it does have another also character, which I think to me dominantly feels like a autumn leaves, slight touch of an orange sponge cake note. It's more that kind of orange sponge cake than dried fruits. And it's more fresh than it is thick and raisiny, if that makes sense. It kind of makes me think of, in Sweden, it's not really a tradition here, which is such a shame. We have something called julbord, which basically translates into Christmas table, but it's like if you pay to go, it's often a buffet of foods, and you go in 7 sittings, it's called. So you go and you get like everything that's cold first in 3 different goes, and then you have the hot food, and then you also often have like a big dessert table. And this makes me think of when you get a little drink when you arrive at the place, and you maybe be waiting for your company, or you just want to sit down and just have a little chat before everyone gets to the food. This would be like the perfect little drink to just have and sit when you're like mingling and just catching up with people, because it has these kind of almost Christmassy flavours without being overly sweet. It's just like a warm-up for your body before indulging in all that food. Yeah, it's almost like I guess it would be an alternative to maybe having a glass of Prosecco as a reception thing, or a glass of mulled wine. So yeah, it's very autumny with a touch of Christmas. But it would be very interesting to hear what you guys think. Have you tried the Sherry Reserve? Perhaps you've tried any of the others. I've so far tried the second release, this Sherry Reserve now, the STR, the Yorkshire Day 2020 and Muscatel finish. So if you're curious about those other ones, feel free to have a look at that video as well. But yeah, it's a good whiskey for this time of year, I'd say. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please put them in the comments section here below. And of course, if you like what I'm doing here on YouTube and my other social channels, I'd be absolutely over the moon if you consider using my affiliate links the next time you're shopping with either Master Malt, the Whisky Exchange or the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. All the information is of course in the section here below, as well as links to my website, my Teespring shop, my Instagram or my Patreon if you're curious about that. As always, a massive thank you to my wonderful supporters on Patreon. I appreciate your support so incredibly much, so thank you for wanting to continue to support me on my whiskey journey. I hope you've all had an absolutely wonderful day. Sláinte Skål.